Hey there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we're going to paint with the Gansai Tambi Watercolors. Now, a lot of stampers use them because they're really easy to control in small spaces, and I was requested by a couple people to do a painting tutorial with them. So what I'm doing here is sketching on a just a little stream scene that I found on Paint My Photo. I'll put a link in the video description. Now, a lot of you guys had asked me about Paint My Photo because there's a notice saying it's not open to new members. It's because they're moving the site and they have a new location, and now I'll be putting that location. I'll put the new site in the video description. Now I'm using a little wax just to kind of add the areas where I'm going to want it to be white in the stream, just by kind of scribbling it on to get that kind of white frothy resist there. And I'm wetting the top of my picture above the horizon line there. And I'm going to add some of this. It's kind of like a cerulean blue. I swatched out all my colors in my Gansai Tambi review, and I find that very helpful to go in and see exactly what my colors are going to look like, because it can be deceiving when you look at the pans of color. I'm using that color full strength with less water to add some blue into the stream area. And now I'm mixing it with a little bit of, it's kind of like a burnt umber color, to kind of tone it down, darken it, and give me a nice kind of shadow area. So the areas where it's really bright blue, it's kind of like the what's reflecting from the sky, and the darker areas are just kind of a little bit less reflective of the sky, a little bit more of like seeing through the water into the depths. So that's kind of why we have that change up of color there. And you can see where I put the wax, we've got some white frothy resist happening, which is exactly what I wanted. I'm using some of this golden ochre color and some reds, and I'm going to just kind of wash in some of the rocks. I want them to look like they are kind of sun-kissed. Now, if you don't have a tile or a plate or anything to blend with, to mix on, and you have this set, I think the clear plastic liner that I showed you a second ago would be absolutely fine for mixing on. Just make sure you clean it up really good before you place it back on top of your paints. So I've put in, kind of blocked in all of my rocky colors. And now I'm using some kind of like mossy green. It's almost like a sap, but it's a little bit more olivey to paint in some trees that are far away. I'm using Princeton Neptune brushes, and I got a steal of a deal on those at Michael's. They were clearancing a bunch of them when I was in West Springfield last week, and I grabbed a bunch. I only had one of that brush line, and I just loved it. It's a synthetic sable, so it acts like a Kolinsky sable, but it is absolutely synthetic, and there's no animals harmed with that. So if you want a sable, but you've been holding back because of the price or because of, the ethics of it, go ahead and try a Neptune. I wouldn't be able to tell the difference, okay? So just I'm telling you, they're a good brush, and if you can get them for 80% off, which is what I paid, it's a steal of a deal. Putting in some grasses with that golden ochre color, plus any other grimy color that I find in my palette, I'm adding that in. I'm still working with the same colors. I'll try to remember to list those in the video description. But you can kind of eyeball it, I'm pretty sure you can anyway. Now I painted in a big tree with that olivey green color, and now I'm dripping in some of that blue I used in the sky just to kind of deepen the color a bit, and I'm also adding a little more blue into the trees further away to push them back, to give a little more depth to my painting. This is just a quick picture. All in all, it took me half an hour to paint, and honestly, I could have done it in about 15 minutes, except I was interrupted about 15 times. It is summer vacation now, and my daughters came downstairs in the studio, and they started harassing me and fighting with each other, and my husband was running power tools in the other part of the basement. So I just decided that I would save you guys 30 minutes of a mediocre video and give you a 7-minute mediocre video, basically. Oh, summertime, and the living is easy. I'm taking some of this, it's kind of like a vermilion, kind of tomatoey red, and I'm mixing it with that same blue I've been using to get these really super duper darks. And I was not really thrilled with my wax job there, so I am using an oil painting brush, just an old, type that you would get for oil painting. I'm scrubbing away some of the blue so I can go back in and make my kind of frothy water look a little bit better. I knew I needed some like rocks and things for the water to be breaking across, so I just didn't have room to put that in before, so I just need to get it out of there for the time being and deal with it later. Sometimes you got to do that. This is the honest raw painting video. I'm adding some shadows to the rocks, again just mixing my colors to make gray, and putting in a little more shadows in the water. I like to build water up in layers and get those shadows in there layer by layer just to add a little bit better depth. Now here, again, taking that blue and reddish orange color, I'm adding some rocks because it didn't make sense that I had all of that white area and I didn't have anything for my water to break on. Now what I'm doing is adding a really thick bead of olive green, and I'm scraping it up with my credit card scraper, and it's giving me some really cool grassy texture in the background. And you can also use a toothbrush like I'm doing here. I just picked up the color from those nice big jumbo palettes, paint palettes that the Gansai Tambis come in. It's perfect for sticking a toothbrush in there and flicking color on. Now I'm pulling up a few grasses with my Princeton Neptune brush, and now I'm taking my credit card scraper and scraping up some more, and then I actually took a different brush that had a scraper handle and I'm scraping in some more lines there. So you can use different size scrapey things to give you different blades of grass and random texture, and it just helps keep your nature paintings looking a little more natural, I think, anyway. And again, back in with that credit card scraper. You can scrub out if you get the scraping lines too long, or you can lower your grass area like I did there. Now I'm taking that stiff brush again, and I'm lifting up some of the color and blotting it off so I can give some highlights to my rocks, because they felt a little too solid and too dark. I just felt like they needed to be a little bit sun bleached there. And that's helping kind of restore some mid-range and some whites to my painting. And now I am mixing up some more gray so that I can add some kind of stippling on the rocks. I'm using that grungy old oil painting type brush just to dab on some texture, basically. You can use brushes of different size for this. You can use sponges, whatever you have, really. Look around your house for like textury things that you can stamp onto your paintings. Now I was experimenting with this brush. It was a little dagger that I got from the Neptune line on sale, and it's just really great for doing long thin strokes of color. Not really necessary for this painting, but if you end up painting something, actually they're called riggers because people would paint the riggings in boats, like pictures of boats like that. So fun fact there. So you know, a rigger can be for you if you like to do a lot of long thin lines and you don't like to reload your brush. Again, I'm kind of adding a few more little dark rocks, and that dark color is great because they would be dark when they're in the water there and wet. And that pretty much does it for my painting. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Share this video with any of your painting friends and Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you like to share things. I do appreciate it. I want to thank you so much for watching tonight, and until next time, happy crafting.